All right, well, we're kicked off and ready to go. Thanks everybody for joining us today. My name is David Bush, and I get to be your host and moderator for this exciting action-packed webinar designed for mortgage executives. We're going to be talking today about gearing up for the rising rate market and how to position your company for success, not only in lead generation and marketing, but also in sales conversion and overall systems and philosophies. Today we've got together a dynamic duo of marketing minds and sales training expertise, and lots of mortgage management experience in this group as well. We've also got a whole bunch of great questions, I think, that are going to come from our group of participants. So I think you're up for a great webinar. If you just joined us, we'd love to see your name and your city and state where you're joining us from, just so we kind of see who's here today. We do have a special offer for those people that stick around for the entire live presentation. Dale and Jeff have put together a nice little consulting opportunity where they're willing to sit down and really review where you're at, where you're positioned at, and give you some expert advice at no additional charge. So make sure you stick around to the end of the presentation, and we'll wrap that up and get things started. So let's jump in and talk about today's presentation. We're going to talk about marketing trends, direct mail lead generation strategies being the primary focus. If you're doing internet leads, other types of marketing, that's fantastic. If you're doing your own referral self-gen stuff, it's still going to be a great experience, because I think you're going to hear from two experts that have done a tremendous amount in the mortgage industry and been around it for over 20 years at the highest level, the peak performers of the industry. We're going to be talking about proven sales conversion tactics for yourself, for your team, management strategies, and really a good philosophy to help you to position yourself for the new economy that's coming. Our first presentation or panelist is going to be Jeff Bush. I've known Jeff for nearly all my life, it seems. He's the founder of Overflow Works, and he's got 20 years of direct mail marketing experience. He's sent over 1 billion pieces of direct mail for the mortgage industry itself. He's also done a tremendous amount in the auto and the solar industry he's breaking into. So a tremendous amount of experience in copywriting. This kid was writing copy when he was about 10 years old, trying to get more opportunities with girls, I think. But he's a fantastic leader in the mortgage industry. He actually owned a mortgage company that closed over 5,000 loans and almost $2 billion in loans using direct mail as a strategy. So he's been in the trenches, if you know what I mean. He's also done a tremendous amount of consulting with mortgage call center expertise and using voice recording and other types of training tactics to help his clients to improve their conversion ratios. So Jeff, it's our pleasure to have you on the webinar today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave. Appreciate it.
Well, we're going to jump in and have you kind of kick us off, and then we're going to have Dale come in at the end. So we've got kind of the lead generation on the front end, which is typical in the mortgage industry. We get the leads in, and then we got to convert them. So Dale's going to be on the back end of this webinar to give us more of the sales training tactics and the philosophies that we need to adopt. But why don't you go ahead and just jump out and talk a little bit more about some of the marketing trends and the experiences that you've seen over the 20 years of doing direct mail marketing and being in the mortgage industry.
Wow, 20 years in a few minutes. You know, the direct mail, has followed the mortgage industry and been a big part of it, I think, for, 25 years. And one thing we know about direct mail is that it's just always changing. The enemy of direct mail is saturation. So if a VA borrower, is getting 10 letters in the mail every month, 10 mortgage companies are splitting the response, and they might be getting a 0.2 response rate. They're getting 20 calls on 10,000 letters. If one mortgage company was mailing them, they might be getting 100 calls on 10,000. So I always talk about the range of direct mail response being 0.2 at the lowest and maybe 1 to 2% at the highest. And we're always looking to blend, quantity of phone calls, but also quality, and trying to make that cost per funded loan be a reasonable number that it's something that's scalable. So I'm out talking to mortgage companies every day, every week, every month that are mailing millions of pieces of direct mail, FHA, VA, HARP, reverse mortgage, second mortgage, banks, credit unions, mortgage companies. And so I've got kind of a pretty good picture of an overall view of what the average response rates are. And we go to work really hard just building data and changing letters and offers and 4 ways to respond to try to increase response rates from the average. And we're talking to some pretty high level people here. I was in someone's office on Monday in Orange County that mailed 13 million letters last year. and their average response rate's about a 0.3, 30 calls on 10,000. And our goal is to get a client up to say 50 calls on 10,000 and a 0.5, a 0.5% response. We have clients getting 1%, but how do you go about doing that? How do you tweak the data? How do you change the letter? Do you give them more ways to respond? Are you merging digital into your direct mail, call center into direct mail? We just have a lot of different ways to try to lift response rates, lift conversion, and lower cost per funded loan. That's what we work on a daily basis. So.
Yeah, well, you've taken some things that are pretty common out in the marketplace, like FHA marketing, and you've done some pretty unique things with some of the different marketing pieces that you've designed and the data sets that you're using to generate the best possible response rate out there. Talk a little bit more about what you're doing to generate more business with FHA.
Well, probably the number one thing we're doing is trying to find FHA borrowers that are not getting 10 letters in the mail every month, because we know, again, saturation is the biggest effect on your response rate. I mean, you could have great data and a great letter, but if they're getting 10 of them a month or 5 a week in their mailbox, it's just going to kill your response. So we have gone out and found ways of getting more targeted data that not everybody has access to. I mean, we pull data from the credit bureau, so does 100 other companies. We pull data from all 3 bureaus. We pull data from public records, CoreLogic, Black Knight, but we've also got a feed of FHA borrowers who have actually gone online and filled out an internet lead form saying, hey, I want to refinance my FHA loan. We take that internet lead, match it back to CoreLogic, make sure the loan amount's right, address, homeowner. We've been direct mailing a lot of internet leads, and instead of getting a 0.3 response rate, 30 calls on 10,000, we're averaging 90 inbound phone calls, 3 times the response. The direct mail cost to buy an internet lead doubles, but only the first time you mail them. Once you buy that internet lead, we can mail it over and over again and still get double response rates instead of triple. So that's, unique data is number one. It's 60% of the success of direct mail is the list you're mailing to. But it doesn't matter just to have a good list. A good list might just be FHA borrowers and they still have their FHA loan. That's a good list. But if it's saturated, your response is going to go down to 20 or 30 calls on 10,000. We show a lot of letters. Here's a letter with, 3 or 4 different hooks in the letter to get them to respond. Get rid of government mortgage insurance. Here's what you're currently paying for your payment, your MI, and here's what a refinance could do for you. And then the box at the bottom, take $20,000 cash out for $89 a month. So we put a lot of offers in these letters because we don't know which one is going to hook them. So we're real big on 3 or 4 different offers in the same letter. And a lot of lenders right now are talking about cash out, and they're doing these mail pieces, and the only offer on the letter is cash out. They're buying revolving credit card debt from the credit bureau, mailing people, just trying to sell cash out loans. And I'm talking to lenders that are mailing millions of pieces that are getting 20 phone calls on 10,000 letters, a 0.2. And it's, that's a good offer, but it cannot be your only offer. You still need to show a refinance, a mortgage payment, cash out, skip a payment, get rid of MI. There needs to be more than one offer on that mailer. Cash out mailers by themselves don't work very well. And just to back up my idea, I have a friend who has some credit card debt. He's getting maybe 4 mortgage refi letters a month. He's getting 40 letters a month from all these personal loan refi companies that are saying, hey, don't touch your low 3.5% mortgage interest rate. Refinance with a personal loan, 5-year term, take your credit card debt from 23% down to 12%. These personal loan lenders are saturating all the cash out data so bad that it's hurting my mortgage clients from being able to do cash out refi direct mail, getting any kind of response. Hundreds of thousands of people are opening personal loans every month, $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 with SoFi, Lending Club, Loan Depot's personal loan division. You just look at how much mail's going out there and it's hurting our response rate. So again, it's more about data, but this is an example of a pretty successful letter for us.
Yeah, we've also got a couple of VA campaigns, and before we get to that, we want to talk about which is the best data. Is credit data the best data to mail to in your mind with all the extra disclosures that must go with it?
I mean, I just mailed 10,000 letters out of credit bureau data for VA with some credit card debt, and I got, 30 phone calls. I mail my public record data, I get 50 phone calls. Which data is better? I mean, one responds a little better, but the credit data will convert a little better. Your credit data has an more accurate mortgage balance. You can put their exact credit card debt on the letter and show them a new payment. So one is not better than the other. They're both good in different ways. I mean, when I was mailing 500,000 letters a month at my mortgage company, I was doing both. You have to do both. You should be mailing triggers from the credit bureau. You should be mailing some pre-screen data, but you also need to mail the public record data. 40 million people have called the credit bureau with the phone number on the bottom of every direct mail letter that goes out for credit pre-screen data. 40 million people have called and said, take me off your list. You're not allowed to sell my name to anybody. So if you're only mailing credit pre-screen data, you're missing 40 million people. So the answer is both. You should be doing both. You should always be testing different data sets. Credit data is great. Public record data is great. Mail them, call them, different letters, different versions, change up the mail piece. Don't keep mailing the same letter over and over again. We call it mail piece fatigue. The first time it gets 0.3 and then 0.2 and then 0.1. And I just talked to a huge VA lender up in Utah who was mailing 500,000 pieces a month that just stopped mailing because his response went down to a 0.1 and it was costing him $4,000 a loan to get a loan funded off direct mail. If you don't get your response up to 0.3, you really can't afford to do direct mail. You're going to be out and your loan officers are going to be not too busy with the phones not ringing or moving them to internet leads. And a lot of guys are doing both. So.
Well, I know that you're really, competitive when it comes down to the person that says, I've done direct mail, the cost per funded loan's too high, I'm not doing direct mail anymore, I'm going to go do internet leads or whatever. And you've come up with this strategy of a guaranteed 1% response rate. Talk a little bit more about that campaign plan that you put together.
Yeah, so I have a client in Orange County, and I was in his office 5 years ago, and he said, Jeff, we're funding, 1,000 loans a month off internet leads. My cost per funded loan is $700. I will never do direct mail. I know the cost of direct mail will be $1,500 a loan. Why would I do that? And I go, hey, that's a good point. If you've got your cost down that low and you're not looking to grow, well, fast forward 5 years, that client's spending $1 million a month on direct mail because they ran out of internet leads, the competition on internet leads, the margin, the profit they're making on internet leads. So, what's better, internet leads or direct mail? There's not an answer to that question. You have to be doing both. You want to have a mix of different marketing. But, this slide basically says, if you sign up, to do direct mail and you use our call center and we buy all these internet leads and we direct mail them and we call them, we can actually guarantee 100 inbound phone calls from any campaign, FHA, VA, conventional, and do direct mail. And if the direct mail doesn't get, a huge response rate, like close to 1%, we can get on the phone with all these cell phone numbers that these people gave us to call on the internet lead and live call transfer enough leads to be able to basically guarantee direct mail with a call center, live call transfer backup. So we mail, the letters. The first time it's expensive because we've got to buy all the internet leads. Then the second month we mail them again. And, the third month we can email them and call them. And I think at the bottom of this slide, it might show the total, cost per funded loan we can get. I think is it $1,200?
Yeah, it's $1,255. Must not be showing up on your screen, but total investment on this 3-month campaign was $34,500 with 27 funded loans and cost per funded loan of $1,255.
Yeah, we're hitting that $1,255 number. I've got clients funding, 100 loans a month that are hitting that $1,200, $1,250 number. Some guys are at 900, some are at 1,700, depending on, what rates you're selling and, how your loan officers are doing, taking these calls, as far as, answering them and being competent to talk to these borrowers. Closing ratio is a big deal, and Dale's going to talk about that. It's a big part of it, but, we can guarantee incoming calls, FHA, VA, reverse, all these types of campaigns through direct mail, internet leads, and calling them all through our call center.
Yeah. For those of you that joined us late, this is Jeff Bush. We're talking about some of the positioning to take on internet and or on internet easy for me to say, generating incoming leads. And Jeff's talking a little bit more about some of the strategies that he's been using with FHA and VA. Jeff, talk a little bit more about your company beyond just the idea of being a direct mail company. You have a whole lot of other services, and you take it kind of from A to Z, and explain a little bit more about how that has helped you to create a competitive advantage for your clients.
Well, you know, soup to nuts in direct mail. I mean, we have 3 full-time artists that do nothing but, you know, design mortgage direct mail pieces all day long. So we've done, you know, thousands of letters. We're constantly testing letters and snap packs and color and different envelopes, double window, single window. So, you know, designing the letter is part of it. You know, acquiring the data, you know, where's the lowest hanging fruit? You know, we're big on testing. We've got a client that mails 10 different letters every week to different groups of people, inting out the data. So we can, you know, create the letter, we can pull the data, and then if we're mailing 10 letters a week, we'll give them 10 different toll-free numbers, and we'll track the campaign and say, okay, which one got the most calls? And if you're willing to send us your funded loans, we can do a matchback report and say, here's, you know, this one got a few more calls, but this other campaign got more funded loans. The conversion was better. So, you know, we don't just consider ourselves to be a printer. You know, a cheap direct mail printer. We can, you know, design, track, test, you know, direct mail, call center. So we try to bring all these things into it to lower the cost per funded loan. It's just too competitive out there to just think you're going to go buy a list and send out a mailer and get a $1,200 cost per funded loan on an FHA VA Govy loan that's just so competitive with millions, tens of millions of pieces being mailed every month by big lenders. So, you know, tracking, you know, this slide kind of shows that each campaign responds a little different, and each campaign, you know, converts a little different. And obviously there's different revenue on different types of loans. You know, we might only get you know, a small response rate on reverse mortgage and a very small close ratio. But if you're making, you know, $20,000 a loan, it'll pencil. So we look at cost per funded loan per campaign, and we kind of threw an average out at the bottom. You know, which one of these campaigns is the best? I don't know. What are you good at? What loans do you really want and really make a lot of money on? That's what we'd focus on. But it would be good to mix it up and do a little bit of everything. You know, this reverse mortgage niche that's out there. You know, when rates go up a point, you know, reverses don't really get hurt too bad, but streamlines do. So might be time to be doing, you know, 5 or 10 reverse mortgage loans per month.
Jeff, we're running a little bit short on time, but I want you to talk about this new 4 ways to respond technology, because this is quite innovative, and I think a lot of our participants are going to enjoy this.
You know, putting a toll-free number on the mailer, recording the phone call, tracking it is obviously super important. Most people are doing that out there. You know, we started offering to the, you know, the homeowner, the borrower, hey, if you don't want to call the number, you know, a lot of people are hiding behind their cell phones now. They're not even answering the phone. They don't want to call a salesperson. But so we started offering the homeowner could text their, they could respond to this direct mail letter through text, through a personalized website, or they can scan using the QR code on their phone, the QR reader on their phone. So we found that, you know, instead of getting 50 calls on 10,000 mailers, we might only get 45 calls by offering these other ways to respond. But if we get, you know, 12 people sending a text and 6 or 7 people visiting the website and a couple people scanning the code, it just increases the response overall. So 4 different ways to respond. Text messaging is a big deal right now. I mean, people are you know, doing mortgages through their phone. They're buying cars just through text messaging and pictures. It's pretty amazing what's going on throughout the country with cell phone text. So it's another way to increase your response rate on your mail.
Well, take a concern that, you know, most marketers have, and that's the idea of, you know, providing an alternative of an incoming phone call and the potential loss of a lead ratio. I know that you had an initial concern of that when you first heard of this idea. What would be your best response to that person that has a similar concern?
You know, you're going to lower your incoming phone calls by maybe 10%. But if you get 25% more response overall, you know, we think that it's worth it. Your cost per funded loan is going to go down because you took your response rate up overall enough to make up for the small drop in closing ratio because you get a few less phone calls. The other thing is every time they text you, you're capturing their cell phone number, and now you can call them back, and people typically pick up their cell phones a lot more than home phone, business phones. So they're basically opted in to receive, future text messages from you. So I think there's a lot of benefit to collecting cell phones and email addresses and just put them in your database and drip on them. If you have a good CRM, that's a good long-term strategy.
Jeff, as we wrap up here, I want you to talk about the PIN system and the lookup tool that you have, because I think that's a real valuable resource that a lot of mortgage lenders don't have access to in a seamless, streamlined system like yours.
So I do direct mail for the #1 VA loan officer in the United States 5 years in a row. I think he does 40 loans a month, all VA loans. He's #1. And we offered this little PIN number where when he took the incoming call, he could just ask the borrower, what's your PIN number on your letter? And when he pulls up that PIN number, he learns everything about the borrower. It's a lot more than just a title search, which I know is free and public record, and trying to juggle between screens when you have somebody on the phone. And what we heard on the phone calls, listening to these phone calls is, okay, you're making your mortgage payment to Chase. You've got a 5/1 arm that adjusts next month. Your home's valued at this. Your property taxes are this. Here's who's on title for the property. Did you know, you're tied to LIBOR and your loan's going adjustable next month. And in the mortgage business, we joke around that it's not LIBOR, it's SKYBOR, it skyrockets, the rate's going up. So the phone calls that we listened to were so much better connecting with the homeowner because the loan officer knew everything about the property without having to ask the homeowner 10 questions. You listen to these phone calls coming off direct mail, and when the loan officer has to ask them 10 questions, it just feels like you're being investigated, and it kind of disconnects the borrower. So having all this information at your fingertips, Google Maps picture of the house, you've got a nice swimming pool, looks like you live on the on the water. Here's the comps on the property, here's the average credit score and income for the neighborhood. The next slide, Dave, is the lien report. That's the most important one, where you can see exactly what they owe on their house, index, margin. I mean, everything about this homeowner. When they call, they almost feel like you're their lender. So what this has done for us is it's taken our closing ratio from 8 or 9% up to 12%. I mean, it's just a way to improve conversion because you know everything about them when when they call. So.
Great. Well, here's the contact info for Jeff. Jeff, in terms of the best way to get in touch with you, just to call the 866 number. Any other contact information for the website or anything else that they can look up?
I mean, they can email me, jeffbush@overflowworks.com, and we'll set up a call. I mean, a lot of the people on the call today I know are spending $100,000 a month on direct mail. So, they deserve a personal presentation of exactly how much data, look at the mail pieces for their market. So we do a lot of, one-on-one, conference calls. So best thing is just, reach out through a phone call or through email, and we'll set up a call and walk you through all this.
Great. Well, thanks for your time today. And this is Jeff Bush from overflowworks.com. And you can email him at jeffbush@overflowworks.com for more information, or call the 866-944-4624 number. We're now going to transition the presentation to more of the sales training aspect. Dale Vermillion is one of the foremost leaders in mortgage sales training. He does a tremendous amount of consulting. He is the champion of mortgage sales training across the industry. Many of you have read his books. You've watched him on stage. His keynote presentations are just amazing. And he really brings not only an authenticity of character, but also just a tremendous amount of experience and proven results with this mortgage sales training and consulting. And so we're so pleased to be able to have Dale off of his speaking schedule here and getting him to share a little bit more about his expertise. So Dale, we're excited to hear a little bit more about some of the sales tactics and training tools that you're using. Oh, hold on a second, got to unmute you, hold on.
There, we got you?
Yeah, there you go, go ahead.
Thanks so much, Dave. Way too kind of comments, but I appreciate it so much. Jeff, great presentation. Great stuff. You start getting to 1% conversion rates, you can make a whole lot of money in this mortgage business. So let's talk about some sales strategies. I'm going to take the screen over here for a minute and move it into, there we go. Let's get, okay. You got the screen now?
You betcha. Thanks, Dale.
Good. So let's talk about gearing up for the rising rate market. And I want to take about 20 minutes with the audience out there. I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your day. I know everybody on this call is very busy, and we want to make sure it's worth your time. We know what the market trends are going to do this year. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that rates are going to go up, and they're going to continue to go up. We've been waiting for this to happen for many years. It's finally here. We get a little blip every now and then where they drop it back down, but we know the long-term prognosis of the mortgage market is rates are going to increase over the 5% range, and sometime in the next probably 6 to 12 months. That is a total game changer. When you think about the fact that statistics tell us about 91% of homeowners out there today have a rate less than 4.5% on their mortgage, and rates are going to 5%. The whole rate and term refi business is pretty much gone when that happens. But that doesn't mean the refi business is gone. It just means rate and term refi is gone. And that means you got to sell differently. And I want to say to everybody out there today, if you want to continue to build a sustained business, you got to change your business. And here's the beauty. There is massive opportunities if you know how to approach it and attack it. And I'm going to help you with some of those things today. But if you do what you've always done, you're not going to get what you've always got anymore, because in a changing market, when the market flips 180 degrees, you got to flip the way you approach it 180 degrees. So one of the things I want to start with is this very powerful quote from a friend of mine named Ron Jensen, who said, "To succeed, we must focus on the root, not the fruit." It's amazing to me as I travel the country, and Dave, as you know, I train thousands of loan officers every single month. I've trained over 1 million of these guys in my 22 years as a trainer and speaker and consultant, and I've consulted hundreds of CEOs and trained for over 400 companies. And here's what I see. Time and again, I see where leaders in the industry think, if I have a highly experienced sales force, we're going to be okay. No, that's not true, because we've just come out of 8 years approximately of the lowest rates in all of U.S. history. We have got sales forces out there today. I would tell you that the quality of most loan officers from a sales perspective is the worst today I've ever seen it in 35 years, because we've moved into a very order-taking, shooting fish in the barrel mindset where relationships have gone away. The focus on benefits have gone away. It's become a very price and product environment. Well, to succeed going forward, you can't just have an experienced sales force, a knowledgeable sales force. You got to have a great sales force. That means that behaviors matter much more than experience. Let me give you a couple of quick things here. First off, our industry has never been more commoditized than it is right now. You look around the industry, you go on any rate table across the country, you're going to find that the gap between the lowest rate lenders and the highest rate lenders is only about 0.25%. In most cases, when your salespeople are negotiating a deal with a borrower and there's another lender involved who's trying to win that deal, you're probably within 1/8 of a point of each other. On an average $220,000 loan, that's literally $18 a month in payment. They're not going to make a decision over $18 a month. They're going to make a decision over who's the best lender, the best loan officer, and the best company to work with. As a result of that, price and product have never meant less. We've never been in a time in industry where price and product means less than it does today. And that's great news when you think about it, because what that means is that there's something else that's going to drive sales that's not just price and product driven. So you don't have to bloodlet and cut your pricing to win in the coming market. What you got to do is build a sales force that's powerful. Here's the key. You got to either be an innovator or an imitator. Well, there's only one of two you can be. And I will tell you, the vast majority of loan officers that I see as I travel the country is they're imitators, not innovators. Most loan officers get on the phone. What do they talk about? Rates and fees and products. What do borrowers talk about? Rates and fees and products. What do competitors talk about? Rates and fees and products. We're all fighting for the same exact thing. That's imitating. And what happens is, I've always taught loan officers, if you get a lead, what that means is, if somebody else talked to them, they didn't, you don't want to do what they did. You want to do something different. You want to be innovative. Here's the number one sales mistake by far. Today, we see a very transactional mindset in the sales world versus a relational mindset. What does that mean? It means that what I see loan officers doing is they're talking all about mortgages instead of talking about what our true product is, which is money. And that's a serious mistake. If you want to succeed in a market where rates are rising, you've got to get your sales force to quit talking about price, quit talking about product, quit talking about programs, and start talking about money. Start talking about benefits, start talking about value, and start building some rock solid relationships, both with the consumers and in the purchase transactions with the realtors and the vendors and everybody involved. So A relational mindset is the key to success in a rising rate market, because if rates go to 4 3/4 and the vast majority of borrowers are under 4.5, and the first thing out of your loan officer's mouth is, well, hey, we got lower rates than the other guys. Our rate is 4 5/8 and theirs 4 3/4. Nobody cares, because the borrower's current rate is 3.75. That dog don't hunt, as the old saying goes. So here's the key. The key to success is always the same thing, I believe. It's putting others first. There's a simple philosophy we built all of our training around. It's called the others first philosophy to selling and to leadership. It's based on my life verse out of the book of Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4, which simply say, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in all things with humility, value others above yourself, looking out for their interests and not your own. I believe that to succeed as leaders, we have to look out for our employees' interests. And as salespeople, we got to look out for our customers' interests. So ultimately, because there's a lot of executives on this phone, I know that the key to your success for your company is building everything about an others first, customer-centric, sales-centric, service-centric approach, so that what you're providing is the very best to your customers to create the right kind of loan for them. So let's talk about sales philosophy underneath that. And everything that I teach is built around this simple thing we designed over 2 decades ago called the Triangle for Success. It's really the 3 key components of success in the sales arena, in the mortgage arena. And that is simply this: value, relationship, and differentiation. By the way, I didn't misspell relationship. I meant to spell it relationship. There are 3 things your loan officers have to communicate to your borrowers to win in a rising rate market. Number 1 is they got to focus on benefits versus focusing on price. Benefits are the true benefits you're providing to the borrower in that transaction, so that you're showing them not what they're paying for the loan, but what they're getting for the loan. Because at the end of the day, what you get is way more important than what you pay. I'll cover that more in detail in a second. Second is you got to build loyalty. We have lost this art in the mortgage arena. Because of the low rates, many of the loan officers, most of the loan officers have slipped into a mindset of order taking, and therefore we're not working on that relationship building mindset. Well, when you think about the fact that there's so much competition out there today, and we're so close in pricing, at the end of the day, people buy from people they like. If we can build better loyalty, not only do we get the sale, but we get the repeat sale and the referral sale. There's a thing called the 9-10 rule that says that the average homeowner is going to go through 9 mortgage transactions in their lifetime. Well, you want to get them all. The only way you do that is through building long-term loyalty and relationship. And then finally, advocacy. That's differentiation. I think the key to going forward in 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21, and beyond is being the very best educator you can. You hear a lot about digital technology today in the mortgage business. It's a real thing. We're obviously going to see that be more and more a play. But here's what I still know. Borrowers still see a mortgage as the largest financial decision and the most complex one they ever make. So they need somebody to help them, even with the greatest technologies, answer their questions and understand how to go about a mortgage the right way. That's where your loan officers come into play. And if they're advocates, meaning that they advise and protect their customers on the right loan, the right program, the right savings, the right term, the right benefits for their situation, they're going to see value in that loan officer. They're going to establish a relationship with that loan officer. They're going to see differentiation in that loan officer, and they're going to choose them. So here's the key. Teach your people to sell value, not price and product. It's a monetary product. It's a financial transaction. Focus on that. Quit focusing on things that you can get beat on, because here's the fact. I don't care what rate your loan officer quotes. The next guy's going to quote less, guaranteed. It doesn't matter what their rates are. That's the way the game works. Number 2, build relationships, not rapport. I hear this a lot from salespeople. Well, I'm a good rapport builder. Well, that's why you're failing. You can't build rapport. You got to have customers who literally love you. That means that you don't want them to just like you. You've got to spend more time. You've got to invest. Relationships are about investment. Relationships are about initiative. Relationships are about being intentional. You have to do all these things. You got to slow down your process and build relationship. And Dave, I can tell you want to ask a question on that one.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. what we're getting in this, fast-paced presentation is not just a meal, but a grocery store of ideas and opportunities to fulfill our hunger. I guess my question is that where do you go with your sales team in building real relationships, not rapport? I mean, where's the starting point at, and how much training does it take before you can actually take your call center and actually get them to be thinking about relationships and not sales and rapport building?
Great question, Dave. And I think the answer goes back to this. It's thinking about what our product does for people, okay? If you think of it in terms of a mortgage, then you think of it in terms of a transaction, and therefore you treat it transactionally, and all you're looking for is to take an application to get the basic information to be able to slap a product and program on top of that. If you instead think about a mortgage as the largest financial decision people make, one that literally can change their family's life and trajectory in a very powerful way, one that can impact them in a very positive way if done well, then all of a sudden you take on a different mindset and you dig a little deeper to get to know more about what are the true needs and desires and goals of those consumers. And now you start to take a more vested interest, and that's how you build that relationship. And then lastly, here's the key. Once you do that, advocate, don't sell. Quit selling deals. Instead, start to give advice and education to the borrower on providing choice to them of different things that you can do for them, different products, different programs, different options that will help them to have say into the sale. The biggest mistake that salespeople make is they become salespeople. They're trying to convince the borrower of the loan that's best for them. That's not what a borrower wants. What a borrower wants you to do is understand their situation and provide solutions. Key there is solutions, plural. Not just one, multiple. What are 2 or 3 different programs you can put me into that would help me, that I can have some say in this? Because then that creates ownership. Because here's what I know. Brian Tracy said it well. People seldom buy logically. Instead, they buy emotionally and then defend it with logic. It's so true. We buy things every day where we pay more for them. We know we pay more for them. We buy them anyway, even big ticket items. And then we justify it and rationalize it the whole way home. A mortgage is no different. If I love the loan officer, I love what you've done for me. You've put together a loan that provides great benefits. You're moving quickly for me. You're meeting my time frames. You're providing great service. You get me the right kind of terms and components I'm looking for on the loan. I'm going to give you my business. So the key here is to target. In this market, you got to be targeted. Jeff talked about this. The beauty of Jeff and what he does is that he targets markets to increase conversion rates. Well, you got to also target sell. And that means that in the refi world, you need this guy. You need Uncle Ed. Who's Uncle Ed? Well, the E and the D stand for equity and debt. You've got to look at cash out, debt elimination. That's what the market is. The only thing you're going to have in the refi market as rates go up is cash out, debt elimination opportunities. And notice, I didn't just say cash and I didn't just say debt. You got to combine the two. That's how you become successful. And in the purchase world, it's having a pre-qual focus, not a contract focus. Yes, I want contracts, but many loan officers get pre-quals and they don't want to deal with them because they think, that's 4 or 5 months down the road. Not if you remind the borrower that rates are going up, and as a result of that, the quicker they move, the cheaper the house will be for them, and you motivate them to move quicker. You want to have pre-qual leads because you control more of the transaction, you can motivate them quick, and then perform well. In the purchase world, your operational capacity is key. You've got to have good turn times, you've got to provide good service, and you got to communicate well. You get your operations in order in the purchase world, you got a much better shot at winning the deal, because at the end of the day, all the consumer cares about and all the realtor cares about is closing. They don't care about an 1/8 of a point difference in rate. Even though a loan officer would tell you many times they would, they don't. That's what they tell you up front. But at the end of the day, if I take any consumer and say, okay, my rate's an 1/8 of a point higher, but I can prove to you I'm better at purchases, I can close you quicker, hit your contract dates, make sure I do a better job, better assurance you're going to close on time than the other guy, who would you rather work with? They're going to pick you all day long. So do that and then diversify. In today's market, you want access to every product. As rates go up, you got to diversify your product line. So you better have conforming, conventional, and VA, and FHA, and a good jumbo product. every product you get your hands on. Now, you don't have to over diversify. I know you talked, David, about reverse mortgages. That's a very specialized product. You start giving that to your sales force, unless you build a specialized team, you're really not going to have success with that. But the standard products you want to have. You need to have products and programs that are diverse, that include FHA and VA and USDA and jumbos and everything under the sun, so that you can help your borrowers get what they need, and then specialize as much as you can. And this is particularly important when you talk about purchase and refi, because you can certainly have loan officers that are better at purchase and better at refi. And if you find they're better at one, get them in that lane and let them run with it. You also can specialize in product. You can have VA experts who literally are military people who can speak military lingo and can relate to your customers well. This is a perfect example of specialization. The bottom line is, put people in their lanes and keep them in there. Because if you don't, that's what's going to happen. You're going to have a wreck with your business. And I see it all the time. People ask me, the most common CEO question I get is this question: what's the key to a successful mortgage operation? My answer is always the same. Salespeople got to sell, processors got to process, underwriters got to underwrite, funders got to fund, closers got to close, and managers got to manage. If everybody gets in their lane, stays in their lane, and you put the right people in place, make them do their job well, you win big. And then inspect what you expect. And let me say one final thing here as I wrap up. You got to start managing leads and activities and quit managing people and problems. And I see this everywhere I go. I do a lot of leadership training. I was 11 and a half years in the business, 10 and a half years as a manager and executive. I ran a 2,300 employee company as my last corporate job. I get what CEOs do. I was one. And here's what I know. The problem I see is we try to manage people and their problems. And what we really need to do is take those leads we're handing to them at $30, $40, $50, $70, $80 a piece. And we got to make sure they're doing the best with that. So if somebody doesn't convert a lead, I'm going to have a second call on that from another loan officer or from a manager every single time to increase and improve those conversion rates. And then I'm recycling those over time into a follow-up call system. We're going to get every drop squeezed out of every lead we get, because that's where the money falls on the floor for most of my clients. Let me close with a couple of things. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. I love when Jim Rohn said that. The key to running an effective mortgage company today is you've got to be disciplined in the approaches I just talked about. The key to success is making sure you got well-trained people. We can help you with that. I do on-site live training with clients, on-site consulting. I've worked with companies all over the country. If you want to talk to us about that, we'd love to talk about that. We also have online training. We just released on April 1st our brand new e-learning platform. It is phenomenal. There's over 50 modules, over 25 hours of training and testing and interaction. There's the thing called Sales Daily Minutes. It's a daily motivational thing. There's manager dashboards where you can track your performance of your people. There's all kinds of gamification and just really cool stuff where we've got training for purchase, refi, operations, leadership, core skills, advanced skills. If you want to find more, check us out. Let me close with what I think is the most important thing from my perspective that I want to end up with, if I can, Dave, and it's this. I'm a firm believer that if you want to build a different business, one of the ways you do it is you build a philosophy that is on not just being successful, but giving back when you get there. I've always loved this quote that says, in the end, each is to be judged by our standard of life, not our standard of living, by our measure of giving, not our measure of wealth, and by our simple goodness, not our seeming greatness. So I've talked a lot about sales philosophy, sales tactics, sales techniques, but I want to close with this. I want to encourage you with this. When you become successful, and you're all going to, commit your company to the greater good. And some of you I know out there are doing this today, but you want to make a difference with your customers. Let them know you care about things beyond just business. You care about people, because that's the others first mentality I was talking about. And we started an organization in 2006 called Mortgage Professionals Providing Hope for that very reason, where we are supporting orphanages in India, we're supporting families in the US, we're supporting homeless people and helping them out of homelessness, we're supporting kids in Guatemala who are literally living in garbage dumps, be educated and clothed. If you want to become what we call a humble hero, you can also find out about that from us. And I only offer this because I know a lot of my clients, they want to give, but they don't know where to give. We're trying to build something that is really for the mortgage professional, where you can have this humble hero insignia on your email that shows that you care about things beyond just profits and business, but you care about communities and people. And I think it's a great message to send. If you want to connect with me, you can do that through my business Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. You can email me. All those things are available. Would love to hear from anyone.
Great. Thanks so much, Dale. I appreciate you sharing this awesome presentation, and it was just a pleasure to be able to sit back and absorb some of those timeless principles as well as some of those innovative strategies. And what we promised people today was a 45-minute action-packed presentation on how to position yourself for success with marketing and with your organization and your sales team. And I think that people got some great ideas. I hope that everybody got at least 2 implementable strategies that you can take action on today. And as we wrap up today, I'm going to put Dale and Jeff both on the hot seat, and I'm going to ask them to share one thing that they think that they can bring to the participants that are on this webinar that can help them to position themselves for success. So Jeff, if you could say what was one thing that you could definitely do to help a participant, regardless of where they're at, to move towards where they need to be at to thrive in 2017, what would be that one thing? Hold on, let me unmute you. Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, so, the one thing is, that I would say is test some new ideas, the big successful mortgage companies that are doing a lot of marketing. I know Quicken Loans uses 7 different direct mail companies. Don't be happy with the status quo. Test some new data, test some new letters, always trying to be improving. I mean, that's really from the marketing side of things. Sales is so important. The best definition I've ever heard for marketing is marketing makes it easier to sell. Sales is everything, but good marketing can make it a lot easier to sell. So I would say, test some new letters, test some new data, always be improving. Don't be satisfied with what you have. Move some things around and just, it's a little uncomfortable, but could get huge results for that, this year.
Fantastic. What about you, Dale? You shared so many great, fantastic strategies and ideas, but if you could sum it up into one people strategy, what would you say that mortgage executives should focus on?
I think the key is, and that was a great tip Jeff gave, I think it's focus. I think it's focus on making sure that you are really the very best organization, particularly from a sales standpoint. You can see, I say this all the time to executives when we talk about things like training, and that is, no matter how good your leads are, your marketing and your pricing is, your products are, if you don't have salespeople that can convert the leads, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money you spend on that stuff. So focus your energies on, when you get these great marketing concepts that Jeff has just brought to you, focus your people on being the very best in every transaction with that customer. I've taught it a million times. You want to close 15 loans a month in this business, is as easy as 1 sale a day. That's all a loan officer has to do. If they can focus on 1 sale a day, and you can get them focused on 1 sale a day, you'll get them there quick, because that's 21 deals a month going into the pipeline. And in the normal 70% conversion rate, that's 15 loans. So focus on sales, you'll be fine.
Fantastic. Well, I promised everybody an opportunity to, hold on a second here, we'll mute these guys. I promised everybody at the very beginning of the presentation that we had a special offer for those people that stuck through all the way to the end of the presentation. And what we're going to offer is, for those people that were here for the entire presentation, we're going to offer you a private consultation opportunity to meet with Dale and Jeff to learn more about how you can position yourself for success. This will be those people that stayed on the longest. So if you have been here for the entire presentation, we appreciate you. We value your time. We hope that you got value from your time, and we'll be following up with you to offer you some additional resources so you can position yourself for success. For Jeff Bush, Dale Vermillion, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you all very soon.